Welcome to the Capital Light Assembly Podcast, brought to you by Edison Manufacturing and Engineering. Edison is your contract manufacturing partner focused on capital light assembly of complex mobility and energy products that are not well suited for highly automated production. Solo episode here today. I'm Brandon Bartneck, Vice President and General Manager for Edison, and talking about a specific topic here. So the show here is focused on really the transition for new technology, the transition from prototype proof of concept into production, often starting with low volume production, but really into production. And one of these solutions is the capital light approach that Edison brings to the table. With in certain situations, that's the right approach. It's not the only approach. We've covered various aspects, for example, Q14, talking about the way they've done things, and there's a wide range of potential solutions here. And the core idea this week is the importance of being product and situationally centric here while making this transition. So for us, we call this being intensely customer centric, but whether you're doing in-house production or external or whatever, it's really the focus is on optimizing the approach for the product, the market, and the organization. The situation here, right? The maturity, the stability, the level of uncertainty in all of these factors. And there is not a cookie cutter solution. There should not be a cookie cutter solution. For the reason there's a unique approach required for these lower volume new technology introductions, whether it's autonomous, electric, hydrogen technologies, or something else, the reason that there is a need to take a different approach than the traditional production approach is because there's something unique in the system. And we need to account for that to be able to execute and to really be able to serve that product in the way it needs to be to have the best chance to successfully make it into production. So everything should be optimized around that problem. And so how do you do that? And so I guess I'll take this from the lens of Edison. I think there's things that can be learned here, whether you're doing this internal or with someone else. But I'll take it through our lens since that's the thing that we can speak and I can speak best about. And so there's really 5 factors that go into doing this well. And the first is complete transparency and trust from the customer from day one. So for us, it's an external customer, someone who owns the design and ultimately is responsible for execution and sale of that product or service that's being offered using that product. It's not that different, even if it's an internal customer you're working with. There needs to be trust and aligning and understanding of objectives here, not with some veil in front of it with, the two sides coming together and trying to win one over on each other. But the only way this really works is with trust and transparency, the ability to come together and say, hey, here are the things that really matter in the situation. Here are the objectives we're working towards. Here's how we think we're going to be able to get there, but we're open to a wider solution set than what we think might be possible here. And the magic often comes in the ability to collectively come together, get different perspectives, someone on the design side, someone on the manufacturing side at the simplest level, and come together and brainstorm and figure out, okay, how can we structure this approach in a way that is best suited for the product and the market and the situation and the organization. And it all completely depends on trust, transparency, on those parties being on the same side of the table from day one and throughout the process as you prepare for launch, as you execute, and onward. So trust, transparency, the most important thing. The next one is kind of simple, but it's deep buy-in of this philosophy at all levels of the organization and on both sides. So closely related to number one, but the important things is that this is not marketing. This is not something that we're saying to make ourselves or to make the other side on the other party on the other side of the table feel good. This only works if you truly believe, right? So one of the things that's so exciting to me about Edison is because I believe that this approach has unique value, and that's the reason I'm talking about it right now. It has unique value in serving a certain subset of products and customers. And that belief proliferates throughout the decisions and what things I'll get into later. But it all starts with, it can't be superficial. It can't be something that's thrown up because it sounds good, and then you make decisions and you execute and run the business or run a certain aspect of a business in a way that's not consistent with that philosophy. This only works if there is true buy-in on both sides across the board. The third piece, competency, right? So this all sounds good. The ability to optimize an approach for a product, for a situation, sounds great, but it only really works if the foundations are in place. If you can trust the manufacturing entity in this equation to execute within the cost, quality, and delivery that's been promised, right? You need to have the foundations in place, and without a question, the ability to execute. That gives you the flexibility to then mold something that is different than what a typical approach looks like. But this is all kind of a waste of time if you can't trust that you're actually going to execute. And also, if you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants and figuring out the foundational things as you go, like you need to be very good on the execution front before you have the freedom to put together a flexible and optimized approach to production. With that said, the fourth one, flexibility, right? So this has to be baked in to the business decisions and the way in which the manufacturing entity is designed. So for us, the tools, the systems, the MES, the ERP, the people that we select, the way in which we have set up our organization, the way we talk, the way that we make decisions, everything is optimized around this customer and product-centric approach, right? You need the flexibility within the systems. You need the ability to mold you need the ability to move fast, and you can't have kind of these rigid, bureaucratic, antiquated systems in place and a mindset that doesn't, as I've touched on earlier, a mindset that doesn't really buy into this. Like, this only works if you across the board are making the business decisions that allow you to bring this philosophy into life. And it all needs to be baked around the ability to execute flexibly, reliably, and in a cost-conscious manner. But we're talking right here about flexibility, right? The ability to optimize the approach, the manufacturing approach for the product and the situation at hand. And the fifth one, you can call it continuous improvement, but really it's the ability to adjust during execution, right? So you put together a plan, you talk early on, you have this in-depth discussion, you're getting to a true understanding on both sides of what's important. How are you going to put together a structure that makes sense? How are you going to design something that really serves the needs of the situation here? You begin to execute that on that, and you have to be able to take in information as it comes and make strategic and responsible decisions in response to that information that comes in, right? So you need to be able to process that information and not just flip around and kind of flip-flop based on the kind of flavor of the week type stuff, but take the information on, use that to question your assumptions and the decisions that have been made in the past, and then chart a new course or course correct, or maybe even stay on the same course that you've been. But the important thing is you have the blinders off, you're taking in new information, and you're utilizing that throughout the process. And ideally both sides are doing this, again, in a transparent manner. So these are all closely related, as kind of the descriptions I think become obvious, but really 5 factors in giving you the ability to execute a product and customer-centric, so at least for us, customer-centric approach. And that is intense transparency and trust with the design team, a deeply rooted understanding and belief in this philosophy, competency, fundamental competency. 4th, flexibility within business processes and all the business decisions. And 5th, the ability to learn and challenge assumptions and incorporate new information as it comes in and course correct. So that's how you do it. I mean, ultimately, getting back to the beginning, right? I mentioned that a capital light approach to production is a great solution for some subset of applications, not for all. And it's somewhat similar here, right? So this intense product and customer-centric approach isn't right for everyone. If you have a cookie cutter problem that has been solved many times before, use the system. There is someone out there, whether it's internal, you can probably do it, or you find a traditional CM contract manufacturer who does things in a rigid kind of formulaic way. Use that. If the infrastructure makes sense, customizing just for the sake of customization, usually not a good idea. You're going to overpay, and it's not right. But if you have a situation that isn't cookie cutter, that doesn't fit well within the traditional contract manufacturing system or the traditional production system overall, maybe because you're introducing a new technology, so automated vehicle technology, electrification, hydrogen fuel cells, something like that, or you have volumes that are atypical, you have scalable volumes that are required, you have different form factors, new markets that you're getting into, some factor is being presented that has not already been solved for. That's where this approach can be invaluable. And so if you're coming to the conclusion that whatever you're considering is too rigid, is too risky, or because of the high degree of change that you have, or any of the situations that I mentioned, maybe that means it's a good time to step back and think about whether a truly customized approach, and I don't know, there have to be others out there that do it. I'm not aware of really anyone else besides Edison who's really optimized around doing this in such a focused manner and really building a business around being that flexible customer-centric and product-centric partner. I'm sure there's other ways. I'm sure you can do it internally, like I mentioned, potentially within your own manufacturing system. But that's the time. If you're running into one of the challenges that I mentioned, or your product is not being served by the traditional manufacturing landscape, then this is for you. You need a solution that's customized from day one. So that's it. Customer centricity, product centricity, key part of some subset of this shift from prototype and proof of concept into production. So thanks for listening. Really appreciate it.